Welcome to this edition of Weather to Watch. Heavy rains return to the central plains and parts of the Midwest, and severe weather is not completely gone, although it is a lot quieter, and much of the country is pretty cool as well. Hello, everyone. This is our Weather to Watch for today. The weather is definitely calming down after an incredible last 6 days. If you want a review of the severe weather over the last 6 days, tornado warnings, take a look at my daily issued severe thunderstorm outlooks video, and I have that in the link in the description, and also it'll be at the end of this video. So on the map today, we see just a real kind of stretched out swirl in the upper Midwest, Great Lakes states. Still seeing some convection in places, for example, here through Indiana and parts of Pennsylvania and Ohio. Also here, we'll take a closer look at that activity. And some thunderstorms and some showers trying to develop in the deep part of Texas and into the Gulf Coast regions. At the 500 millibar level, we have basically a west to east flow and a pretty fast flow, and then these areas of low pressure, as you saw the spinning in the clouds in the northern plains. So it's pretty cool up in this part of the world, as you see in the forecast for the next couple of days. And so there is kind of a west-northwest flow across the Great Plains, and that is letting some thunderstorms develop. And I guess the question would be, with all the severe weather we've had, are those going to be severe? And we'll take a look at that here in a minute. Here's the surface map on this Wednesday. A couple of cool fronts connected to a low pressure center over Ohio. And the warmest air certainly out ahead of this in the Carolinas and Florida. A little reinforcing shot of cool air is what we like to call that there. And then there's a warm frontal boundary and a stationary frontal boundary. And these two are focusing some lifting over the high plains. And that's what's causing these thunderstorms to blossom. We'll show you the loop here on the visible satellite loop. You can see the telltale signs of cumulus bubbling and anvil tops on some of these storms in Nebraska, increasingly in parts of Kansas as well. And you can definitely see that jet stream flow in the cloudiness as we keep looking at this loop. You see more activity back through Nebraska as well. And will that survive? Let's take a look at radar. Well, here's a radar snapshot, including some of these thunderstorms in Nebraska and also developing in parts of north and northwest, I guess you would say, Kansas. This right here is the Storm Prediction Center, basically the first level of 5 for a risk, and also this is the second level of 5. So we have this being the maximum area here, but I can tell you right now this is all going to be elevated thunderstorms, and it's going to be a hail threat once these storms start sliding the slide down through the outlook areas. Take a look at a high resolution radar, and you can see right along the river there around Lexington, Nebraska, a pretty good cell that laid down almost, well, one report was at 1-inch hail, so that's the official severe criteria. And there was a 50-mile-per-hour wind gust there in south-central parts of Nebraska. So yeah, there might be some gusty winds with this, but primarily 1-inch or slightly larger hail is the main threat as these storms continue to slide off toward the southeast. Well, it is the time of year that heat is starting to build in. Now, although most of the country is actually experiencing a lot of cool, but there is one part, South Texas, that is still going to be in a hazardous heat area. That does include San Antonio and Houston and almost Austin, and certainly points south like Corpus Christi. If you take a look at the forecast, this is the GFS for Houston, you're starting to see upper 90s, very common, Friday, Saturday into the weekend, even a 100-degree forecast by the computer models for Tuesday of next week. And low temperatures are only going to be in the mid to even upper 70s. So pretty oppressive stuff. No chance of any real rain here until showing up until Thursday of next week. So, talk about 8-9 days from now. So here is that severe weather outlook in a little more detail. So we have that lowest category here, and then that second slight risk here through southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. Again, that is all going to be hail for later on tonight. You saw where they are now, and they're going to be sliding in that direction. And then the forecast for Thursday has sort of a re-energizing area of showers and thunderstorms down in Texas and southern Oklahoma. And again, if you want more details on any aspect of severe thunderstorms, watch my daily produced Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks video. It comes out every morning, usually just after 8:30 or so Central Daylight Time after the Storm Prediction Center issues their new forecast. But you'll want to look at today, certainly, and tomorrow morning we'll have more focus on some of the severe weather as it is forecast to develop this weekend again across the central U.S. And that very same area of severe weather for the central plains and Midwest is going to produce a lot of rain, too. This is the total precipitation QPF, quantitative precipitation forecast, for the next 5 days. And you're starting to see the red is 3, and then the next color is 4, and then 5, and then even a little bit greater through southwest Missouri. So I live right here, so it looks like we're going to be getting a pretty soggy Memorial Day weekend, as the majority of this is not going to fall today or tomorrow, but it'll focus in on Friday through the weekend. We'll look at the EPS ensemble forecast at 500 millibars and try to find out what the general pattern is going to be. We do not see an aggressive trough pattern that brought all the severe weather past 6 days. What we do see, though, is a rather cool pattern. If I just kind of take this through, here we go through about Friday midday or so. You see a lot of cool air in the northeast with a couple of low pressure areas at the 500 millibar level. That's on Friday. But there is a little troughiness coming into California there. You can kind of see that activity right in through there. And then that kind of moves in a little bit for the weekend. And there might be a little bit of support for some severe weather across the central plains. There's a ridge of high pressure in place, but there's also a little bit of southwesterly winds aloft. The shear is not great, but it is something that needs to be kind of watched because the instability is going to be there. And that kind of goes through. So here's Sunday late in the day. Again, some troughiness there in the Texas Panhandle. Big jet stream is moving offshore in the northeast, but everything behind where you see the strong winds, the purple, is cool for this time of year. So much of the northeast, as you saw in the forecast, is going to be pretty cool. And if we let this go ahead, then we just have this basic, still kind of sunken motion. Tuesday of next week, the Great Lakes, New England, very, very cool, where the Gulf Coast remains warm. And then there's a ridge of high pressure out in the Intermountain region, the Rocky Mountain area, that is going to keep those folks pretty warm, as you saw in the forecast. Here's a look at those high temperatures. On Thursday, if it's a blue or green shade, it's below normal. The actual highs are at the cities themselves. Chicago will only be at 59 tomorrow. And 48 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So a big area of carved out cool. Pretty warm in the mid-mountainous areas, and still in the south, you're starting to see, again, hundreds popping up in a few places, but upper 90s in South Texas. And that's going to be amplified. Even though the cool just remains in place across the northern plains, you see the heat beginning to creep back north through parts of Texas on Saturday. And then on Monday, 2 days later, again, much of the central U.S. very, very cool. This is where all that rain is going to be falling, another area of low pressure developing across that region. Now here is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, reflecting the fact that May 27th through the 31st, very cool temperatures from Chicago to the Gulf Coast, including much of the Northeast and the East Coast. Florida will remain pretty warm, as will the northwestern part of the country and the Intermountain region. As far as precipitation, wet down where it needs to be wet. This is good news. This is probably where the drought has been the most extensive and long-lasting in parts of New Mexico and West Texas. So this is good news for them. Dry in the northern plains is the forecast for the end of the month. And the June temperature forecasts out, and the precipitation. So June temperatures are forecast to be above normal, or a good chance to be above normal almost everywhere, with a special highlight in Arizona and New Mexico. About neutral in the Great Lakes and in the Northeast, the New England area. And as far as precipitation is concerned, it might be a little wet, basically in Ohio River Valley to the East Coast, including Florida, and a little dry in the Rocky Mountains and much of the West. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.